personal, and I've mentioned this a couple times, well, many times during the course of this program. When I was in my 20s and 30s, and I saw people in their 60s and 70s, I vowed that there were certain things those people did that I would never do. For instance, I vowed I would never become, in the eyes of anybody else, an old fogey. I would never be somebody who looked at the younger generations as the beginning of the end of our culture. My parents did. My parents, the Beatles and all of that, that was just the end of the world as far as they were concerned. It was the long hair. It was the rebel characteristics, all of that. This is true for every generation. Every older generation looks at the younger generation and thinks, my God, they're going to blow it. Country's finished. We're all done. It's just, and I vowed that would never happen to me. I vowed I would keep an open mind and try to remember always the way I looked at the world when I was in my 20s and 30s. Well, there are things that have happened here that befuddle even me. You and I'm going to take the liberty here of speaking for you, because I think this is pretty accurate when discussing most of you. You and I look at what's happening to the country, and we are a multitude of things. We're appalled, we're angry, and we're really scared. Despite every effort not to be an old fuddy-duddy, an old fogey, despite every effort to avoid falling into that trap, as I've gotten older, as I have matured and aged, I haven't been able to avoid it. It's not that the younger generations are to blame. It's not that they're at fault. It's not my point. We're losing the country right in front of our eyes. It is astounding. The transformational changes leading to actually has me depressed at times. Now, you and I see this the same way to one degree or a bunch of varying degrees. But then you realize that other people don't. And they're living it, and they don't. In what I would consider a sane, normal world, anybody from any party who had presided over this kind of, not just economic destruction, but national transformation, wouldn't be considered a serious candidate for re-election at any time in this nation's history. Anybody who had been in charge during these 3 years would be looking at a 30% approval number or re-elect number in what I would consider to be a sane world. For the past 2 years, every Thursday we talk about the unemployment numbers on this country, in this country, on this program. And on a Thursday of every month, we look at it in great detail because we get the number for the previous month before it's revised downward. And it seems to me that it's almost like a slow drip water torture. There is obviously cultural rot and decay taking place. There is economic decay taking place, but it is so gradual that it's not accompanied by any shock value. And since there's no shock value attached to it, there's no high degree of outrage. There's more like just a resignation. People just resign to it. We got 8.2% unemployment, new normal. It's not something about which you need to exercise and make a big change. It's just the way it is. Not for you and me. Not for you and me, but for seemingly a large part of the country. And, of course, this election is going to tell us how large a part. Well, this is the great unknown. This is the great unknown question. Just how many people in this country think this is the United States of America? This is all it can be. This is it. And this is normal. And how many of them vote? When you look at 8.2% unemployment, when you look at more people going on disability than get jobs, folks, we are in uncharted territory. We now have 8 million people on disability. We have 48% of the people in this country not paying income tax, and yet all of them, and this is important in trying to assess all this, All of these people are eating and they're not going hungry. And they all have their cell phones. And they all are able to afford to use their cell phones. And they all have their plasma TVs, and they're all able to sign up for cable and use them, despite all of the economic malaise. Now, the reason for this is that we're $16 trillion in debt. We've got an administration which is happily paying for this result. There is no longer a stigma to being unemployed, a stigma to being on welfare. And so, just as we used to look at the younger generation, we who are seasoned and mature, and a little worried about what they're going to amount to because they seem to be such degenerates and reprobates. Now, instead of looking at it that way, this whole generational thing has become one view of the country versus another view of the country. Whereas I promised myself I would never look as a seasoned, mature individual at younger people as worthless, degenerate perverts, like my parents looked at my generation and every other generation has. Now, instead of doing that, I'm sitting here looking at an unknown percentage of the country and asking myself, how many of them know what it is to be an American? How many of them know what that means anymore? Or how many of them have a different definition of it entirely? And I worry because the architect of all this transformation, the architect of all this destruction, has a legitimate chance at winning re-election. In a real sane world, this guy, his party would have thrown him out and they would have put Hillary or somebody else in there.